Hello, everyone. This is Sandy, and I am in Sarah's tent, and I have Nancy here. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, everybody.
We are going to record tonight. It'll be episode number 33. I'm just amazed every time I think about how many episodes we've done. Tonight, we'll be looking at Genesis chapter 18, starting a new chapter and a new parsha. And we're continuing the story of Abraham. And we'll read a few verses and then we'll stop and discuss. So, Nancy, if you could read Genesis 18, let's just read verses 1 through 3 to get started.
Okay. Appeared to him did Hashem in the plains of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance of the tent in the heat of the day. He lifted his eyes and saw there were three men standing over him. He perceived, and so he ran toward them from the entrance of the tent and bowed to the ground. And he said, O Lord, if now I have found favor in your eyes, do not please go away from your servant.
Okay, just to set the background for this, the sages tell us that it has now been 3 days since Abraham circumcised himself and everyone in his household. And from what I've read in commentaries and such, it says the third day is the most painful after the circumcision. And also reading in a commentary, it said Hashem created an especially hot day to so many visitors wouldn't come to Abraham's tent. In fact, in the sense that Hashem wanted to give Abraham a respite, to give him a break, because he knew he was in pain. So as this starts, he's having it seems like he's having a conversation with Hashem. Uh, Hashem maybe has come to visit him. I don't know, but it seems like he's having some sort of interaction with Hashem. And he looks up and he sees three men coming toward him. He's sitting there in his tent, like we've talked about, the flaps open. He's sitting in the tent, wanting visitors to come by. And he looks up and he sees these three men. And this is something that has fascinated me. He's in some sort of conversation with Hashem, but he sees these three men, and it's in this fact, it's almost like he says, "Wait a minute, Hashem. Wait, I've got to go take care of these men. Don't go away. I'll be back." It's almost like, "I'm going to put you on hold, Hashem."
Right.
And it appears Hashem is okay with that. Says it's important to take care of visitors, to show hospitality. So, what are your thoughts on just those few verses right there?
Well, I have learned that the lesson that we get from this is to go visit the sick. And
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it, but Hashem is visiting Abraham when he's not feeling well. So Hashem is visiting the sick. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yes, we're going to learn several lessons out of this little short story. And the first one is going to be visit the sick.
Yes, good. And yeah, and I think it's interesting too that even though Abraham is in pain, not feeling well, uh, it says he ran toward them.
Right.
Sometimes, in order to do a mitzvah, we may have to overcome our physical discomfort. We may have to go that extra mile, so to speak. We may have to, even though I don't feel like doing it, this is what I need to do. And to me, it again just speaks to the kindness of Abraham, and he put somebody else above himself. He didn't let his discomfort keep him from showing hospitality and taking care of these strangers.
Yeah, like he was happy to do it. He was excited and happy
Yes,
to do it.
yes. And how many times have I had the opportunity to do something good, but I don't feel like it today. My head hurts, this or that, and it seemed like it's an easy excuse to not do something we know we should. But following this example of Abraham, it's important to overcome those things that we would let hold us back. So, would you like to read verses 4 through 8?
Yes. So this is Abraham still talking. Let be brought now a small amount of water and wash your feet and recline beneath the tree. I will bring a piece of bread that you may sustain your heart. Afterwards, go on, since for that purpose you have passed by your servant. And they said, so shall you do just as you have said. And then Abraham hastened to the tent to Sarah and said, hurry, sift 3 seahs of meal, yielding fine flour, knead and make cakes. Then to the cattle ran Abraham. He took a calf, tender and good, and he gave it to the youth, and he hurried to prepare it. He took cream and milk and the calf which the youth had prepared, and he placed these before them, and he stood by them beneath the tree, and they ate.
Okay, there's a lot going on in those few verses.
Lots of
First of
running
all,
around.
yes, a lot of running around. Um, First of all, he brings water to wash their feet. I think it would seem odd today if somebody comes into my house and I say, "Here's some water. Let's wash your feet." But the two things that I have read in this that he assumed that these men were Arabs, and as such, probably were idolaters who worshiped the dust. And so he did not want anything connected with idolatry coming into his home. So that was possibly one reason why he first thing he did was offer them water to wash their feet. And I think also there might be just a practical, another example of kindness. They're probably walking in sandals, hot and dusty, and and you're tired and you're hot. Doesn't it feel refreshing to put your feet in some cool water?
Yes.
So I'm thinking, yes, he didn't want idolatry in his home, but maybe he's just also wanted to make them comfortable, to cool them off, to just feel refreshed before they have their meal. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think this is lesson number 2 is to make your guests comfortable.
Yes.
And I don't exactly offer water for people to clean their feet, but I live so far out that usually as soon as people get here from wherever they've driven in from, which is usually a long distance, I offer them the restroom so that they
Yes.
can freshen up a little bit before
Yes.
we have our visit. So yes, make your guests comfortable.
Yes. And many different ways we can do that. I live in Houston, so I'm not out in the country as you are, Nancy. And so usually when somebody first comes into my home, I will ask them if would they like something to drink? Would you like some water? Would you like some sort of beverage? And I try to do that when I have maybe some work going on in my yard, like have the landscaper guy here working. I'll several times I'll go out and just take them a bottle of water or something like that. So there's so many ways, little ways that we can make people in our home comfortable.
Right.
So, um, and like you said, they're hurrying. He tells Sarah, he gets Sarah involved, he gets a servant involved, and then later it says about a youth. And I've read in commentary that that youth is probably Ishmael. So it was important that he teach Ishmael, that he gets Ishmael involved in being showing hospitality and taking care of strangers. So I think as we're looking for lessons, I think that might be another lesson to get your children involved in doing mitzvahs and helping and not just say this is what we should do, but do it and let them get involved in it also.
Another lesson that that we get from this particular part of the story is to promise a little and deliver a lot. He
Mm,
says, "Let me bring you a piece of bread."
yeah,
And and look what he brings. Sarah makes cakes. I'm guessing that they're not like dessert cakes, but they're like
right.
bread cakes.
Yes.
And a meat and milk and cream. So, I mean, that's a lot more than a piece of bread. So the lesson here is promise a little, but deliver much.
And I can see also in that where if he had told these strangers, come in and I'm going to go kill a calf and we're going to make bread and we're going to, they probably would have said, that's too much trouble. Don't do all that. But if you say, I'm just going to give you a piece of bread, okay, we can do that. And then he does all this other. So again, I see just very subtle ways that he's making these people feel comfortable in his home. He doesn't want, it seems like he doesn't want them by saying, let me just give you a piece of bread. He's not wanting them to feel like they're being an imposition on him.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I just want to say we talk about how hospitality is um, very much a characteristic of Abraham. And here in this story, we see that. We
Mm-hmm.
see how hospitable he is.
Yes. And he's doing this, he's participating. He's not just telling other people, because this is a lot of work. You think back in those days, he had to go get a calf, kill it, dress it. I don't know how long it would take to cook a calf over an open fire. But this didn't just happen like in a 30-minute, we got recipes, meals in 30 minutes or less. This is not a meal that he did like in this 30 minutes. So it took some time, and he's out there doing it also. He's not just giving orders and say, you do that, you go get the calf. He actually went and got the calf, which I think that might be the most difficult part of the whole thing is get the calf and kill it and all of that. So he doesn't just say, this is what we should do. He actually is doing it himself, setting the example.
And I also heard, I don't know this. I can't um, give you a source, but I've heard that, like you said, the youth that's mentioned here is probably Ishmael, his
Mm-hmm.
son.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned last week, he has a pretty strong bond with his son. 13
Mm-hmm.
years they've been together. And I've heard that hospitality is a trait of Ishmael's descendants as well. So they
Yes.
did pick up this trait of hospitality from their ancestor Abraham.
Well, a spoiler alert. We're going to see in just I don't know if we'll get to it next week, but in the next couple of weeks at least, um, Lot, who grew up in Abraham's house and had the influence of Abraham, we see this same hospitality in him when at least two of these same men show up in Sodom and they're going to sleep on the street. And he says, no, 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 you come to my house. And he offers water for their feet also. So, yes, Abraham's influence, we see it in other people also that have been around him. They do the same
Yeah,
thing.
that's nice.
Yes. So, okay, let's move on. Now we kind of the the conversation kind of takes a turn here. He's prepared this incredible feast for them, and they ate. So, Nancy, let's read. Now we're going to find in these next verses why they're actually here. They didn't just happen to be um, travelers who just happened to come by Abraham's tent that day. They're there for a specific purpose. So if you'd like to read 9 to, I guess, the end of the verses we're going to look at tonight.
Okay, I'll read 9 to 16. They said to him, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" And he said, "She is there in the tent." Parentheses, in Sarah's tent. Close parentheses.
Good plug.
And he said, that's the man, I will surely return to you at this time next year, alive and well, and there will be a son to Sarah your wife. And Sarah could hear at the entrance of the tent, which was behind him. But Abraham and Sarah were old, coming with their days. There ceased to be with Sarah the cycle like other women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I have withered, shall there again be for me delicate skin? And my husband is old. And then Hashem said to Abraham, why is it that Sarah laughed, saying, is it so that in truth I shall bear a child, though I have aged? Is there beyond the capacity of Hashem anything? At the appointed time, I will return to you at this time next year, alive and well, and to Sarah there will be a son. Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was frightened. But he said, no, indeed, you laughed. And they got up from there, the men did, and gazed down upon the face of Sodom, while Abraham was walking with them to send them on their way.
Okay, this is very similar to what we talked about, I think, last week when Abraham was told that there would be a son, and he laughed and was told his name is going to be Isaac. But it seems like this is the first time Sarah has been brought into this, that this is the first time she has heard about this. Do you get that impression? I don't recall when we read it last week that she was included in that conversation. Do you think this is the first time she's been told this?
Well, interesting, she wasn't told. She overheard it.
Well,
But
yes.
but yes, our commentary says previously the prophecy of a son had been given only to Abraham, and now it would be conveyed to Sarah as well. So I think she overheard it, but I think it was on purpose because the men say, where is Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Because they kind of want to know where she is. And Abraham says she's in the tent. And so I think they wanted her to overhear this,
Yes.
but they're not talking directly to her.
At this point, but then it seems like later on it does switch to where they are talking to her. And let's put a pin in that for now. But one thing I wanted to point out is Sarah being in the tent. We've been talking about Abraham's kindness, but let's talk about Sarah's modesty here. We've got these three men that have come into their tent. She's staying in the background. She's not presenting herself. She's doing all of her things in the background. She's staying in the tent. I don't know if that's particularly a custom for the time or if that's just Sarah's nature or what, but I see that as kind of a trait of modesty in her, but she is listening. She is listening to that. So any thoughts on that, Nancy?
I like that's an indication of her modesty,
Mm-hmm.
that she would not impose herself into a conversation that she was not invited to.
Right. And maybe it was the custom of the time that the women just didn't present themselves in front of men who were not. Well, it kind of made me think, we won't go into it, about the story of Esther when the king's first wife, Vashti, was summoned to appear and she refused. So maybe it was something to do with customs of that time that women did not uh, present themselves in front of men who were not their husbands, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe so.
Maybe so. I don't know. Well, she had the same reaction. We see in verses 11 through 12, she reacted the way Abraham did when he heard the news. She laughed.
But she laughed to herself,
Yeah,
not out loud.
yes. But
So it was
in
just an internal laugh.
Yes. But in verse 13, Hashem told Abraham, why is it Sarah laughed? So, Hashem kind of blew her cover there.
So you remember back at the beginning of the story when Hashem came to visit Abraham, and then the three men came, and Abraham said, "Hold on a minute, let me go take care of these travelers." Well, Hashem just kind of what sits down and waits. I mean,
Yeah.
what does he do? Well, here he shows up again,
Yes. Yes.
and he's the one who kind of mentions this about that Sarah laughed. So Hashem knows what we do, even if we do it if we have an internal dialogue.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is hidden
Yes,
from him.
yes.
So even though she laughs to herself, let me back up. We talked last week about, did Abraham laugh out of disbelief? Like, how ridiculous is that? Or out of joy? And I think we determined it was from joy.
Right.
So what do you think? Why did Sarah laugh? Was hers from disbelief? That, well, she says, she said, how can this happen? I'm old. My husband is old. Um, or was hers from joy? What do you think why she laughed?
Well, I think tradition says that she laughed out of disbelief,
Yeah.
that it was different, that it wasn't out of out of joy, but like not believing that Hashem can do something that miraculous.
So is it disbelief when we say, okay, what if she had said, like she did say, I'm old, my husband is old, I don't understand how this can happen. Is that disbelief, or is that just, I don't understand? Can we not understand something without it being disbelief?
I think that's correct. I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between not knowing how it's going to happen and not believing that it will happen.
Right. Which brings my next question. I was reading the commentary on this, and it says God was angry with Sarah's reaction. But I read it and reread it. I don't see where did Hashem display anger? He says to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? Don't you know that there's nothing beyond my ability, that I can do anything? And at the appointed time, Sarah will have this child. So where's the anger? Where's Hashem showing anger there?
Don't I don't see it in the words, but maybe it's just maybe it's just in the way that he said it to Abraham, like, why is Sarah laughing?
Mm-hmm.
But Abraham didn't know she was laughing because she was laughing to herself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, how would Abraham know?
And apparently Sarah hears this, hears Hashem talking to Abraham, asking him this question, because then she denies it. She says, I did not laugh.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Who accused her? Did did Hashem say, yes, you laughed? Or did Abraham, now that Abraham knows she laughed, did he come? Who is she denying this to? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Who went to her and said, you laughed, even though you laughed? So who made it known to her that we know what was going on in your mind?
I think it was Hashem, because who else would know?
Well, he had told Abraham, so maybe could Abraham have gone and said, Sarah, I know you laughed. I,
Could, but it doesn't say that here.
no, it doesn't. That's why, but said in verses 13, it seems like it's Abraham and Hashem having the conversation.
Right.
Abraham, why is it Sarah laughed? And then he repeats to Abraham what she said, or oh, is saying, no,
Yeah.
is it so
Yeah, that's
that
what.
in truth I shall bear? Oh, yeah, he's telling Abraham what I guess what she was thinking. And it seems like Hashem says, there's nothing I can't do, and I will at this next time next year, you will have this child. So it seemed like that conversation was between Abraham and Hashem.
Right. But we have to remember Sarah's eavesdropping.
Oh, that's true.
So maybe now she decides that she's going to say something.
Yes, but she denies it. Do you think she denied it because in her mind, I really didn't laugh out loud. It was just inside. So no, I didn't laugh. It seems out of character for this righteous woman that we would think she just lied about it. Um, so maybe in her mind, it's because I didn't laugh out loud or say these things out loud. Uh, no, I didn't do it because I didn't verbalize it.
I think maybe so.
Yeah.
Yes. Or she could be embarrassed. It says she was afraid.
Yes. So, what was she frightened about that of God's reaction? Maybe that's where we get the idea that God was angry with her. Maybe she sensed that God was angry with her. And maybe that's what made her afraid. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe so.
And then when it says, but he said, no, indeed, you laughed. Again, who is the he? Is it Hashem or is it Abraham? We need fewer pronouns and more nouns, proper nouns,
Right.
so we know who's saying what to whom.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, and then I guess to finish it up, they got up, the men got up, and they gazed down on Sodom, and Abraham was walking with them to send them on their way. And I grew up in Texas in the South, and it just was just a custom that I grew up with, and I still do it today. Is when we had visitors and they got ready to leave, we just walk them out to the car.
Yes.
And I still do that today. I'll walk all the way out to the car and close their door, when they're getting in. And we see Abraham doing this. It just seems, again, being courteous. Walk them part of the way on their journey.
I think that's the fourth lesson or the
Yeah.
fifth. I lost count, but that's another lesson of hospitality that we learn to walk your guests out. And yes, I do the same thing. I'll stand on the porch and wave at them
Yes. Until
until
they
they're
turn the
out of sight.
corner.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Uh, and you grew up in the South too. So wonder if it's a Southern thing. We'll have to ask some of our friends who grew up in the North, what do they do when their visitors leave?
Yes, if they do that too.
If they do that too. So anyway, so we're going to stop there. Abraham has welcomed these strangers into his home. At this point, I mean, we know the rest of the story. We know that these are not men, as we understand men, that they are angels. Uh, do you think Abraham has figured that out, or is he's walking them away? Does he still think they are Arabs?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think that he kind of senses that they might be messengers of Hashem because Hashem has told him the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hashem has already told him a couple of times the same information that these men are saying. So he might make the connection that they are from Hashem and not just normal people.
Well, and I think you mentioned it earlier that how did they know Sarah's name?
Oh yeah, how do they
Yeah,
know
how
it?
would they know that unless just Arabs coming by, traveling by, would not have known who she was. So yeah, there's some clues here that these are just not they're not men. There's something more going on. So, Nancy, what is your takeaway?
Well, my takeaway is, other than all the lessons that we learned here, my takeaway is that Hashem knows our innermost thoughts, and we can't hide anything from him. What about yours?
Mine is, and we've talked about it. Yeah, like you said, we've talked about this throughout the our topic tonight, to show kindness and courtesy to everyone, because you never know who might these people really be. Couldn't they be an angel?
Perhaps so.
Perhaps. So, okay. Well, anything else before we say goodnight?
No, I think we've covered it.
Okay. Well, next week we are going to find out there's another reason why these uh, three men slash angels have come on the scene, and it's pretty scary, kind of scary.
Yes, it'll be an interesting story.
Yeah, I think so. So, okay. Well, thank you for joining me tonight in Sarah's tent, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.